Hey dog people. If you're a dog trainer or dog business owner and you want to start using Instagram to market your business, but you're overwhelmed at how involved the professional side of social media is, I have a brand new free Instagram launch guide. This guide is going to take you from content consumer to content creator in just 7 days. You can download the guide at www.freedbytraining.com/launch. In this 32-page ebook, I'm going to walk you through the essential things you need to do when starting an Instagram account for your dog business, like setup, branding, creating a posting schedule, and more. There's a simple 7-day checklist included and exclusive tips from top Instagram professionals. Get an actual strategy and a clear plan to start your new dog biz Instagram account completely free. Go to www.freedbytraining.com/launch to download your copy, or click the link in the show notes. Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where canine professionals share their key takeaways, big aha moments, and hardest lessons learned from working with dogs. I'm Mattison, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant, and dogs are my life. Every day I get to coach guardians and other trainers into a deeper understanding of canine behavior. But let's face it, sometimes dog training really bites. And that's okay, because when it does, we learn a lot. This podcast is all about sharing the lessons learned from experience, because the stories of when it got tough or when we made a mistake, that's when we learn the lessons worth learning. And it's time we share those with the world. I'll be talking to dog trainers and other pet professionals about times that working with dogs, well, bit. Not literally. Maybe literally. What's most important here on this show, what did they walk away with? What did they learn? How did it shape their approach today? Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where pet professionals share personal lessons that you won't find in any textbook. I am very excited today to introduce one of our first guests, Ashley Devine of Mannered Misfits Dog Training. Ashley is a certified professional dog trainer with 8 years experience focusing on canine body language and defensive handling in a fear-free shelter setting. Their experience ranges from reactivity and aggression to life skills and puppy socialization, and they are currently working towards further education and credentials in separation anxiety. Hi, Ashley. I am so excited to
Hello.
have you here.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. This is super cool what you're doing.
And Ashley, I am curious. Tell me a little bit about your own pack. Everyone I know, we love to talk about our own dogs. So tell me.
Yeah, well, I mean, as most trainers do, we adopt a dog who is not like a previous dog we've had, and then we become a dog trainer. The end. So I found myself in that spot almost 10 years ago now. I adopted my now 13-year-old kettle dog named Layla, who took like a massive week to decompress and then was like, I actually hate this environment you've put me in. I could sit here and list all of her behavioral issues, but to summarize, she is at the end of the day, basically what it kind of boiled down to was that one, she had epilepsy, so that made a major um, description just kind of for her overall behavior.
Yeah.
Two, she has a bite history with other dogs as well as people.
Okay.
And finally, just reactive to a lot of different things. And I think my partner and I at the time were kind of like, we'll have good days and then we'll have bad days. And then the end all be all of it for, just getting help was to, have some people over. And unfortunately, she latched on to the pant leg of one of my friends. And we reached out, got help. This person became my mentor over time. And
Okay.
now here I am, 8 to 10-ish. Yeah. 10 years later, because right after that, I just deep dived into the
Yeah.
shelter world. And I'm like, if this can happen for her and she can be, I don't think I have really had any worries about her in the last 8 or so years. Definitely the first 2 were super rough. She had a hard reset after my partner and I broke up, but
Mhm.
now she is just my best friend and she taught me everything I know. And she has helped so many other dogs. She was really frustrated, like frustration based,
Mhm.
reactive for a
Yeah.
long time, and she had terrible social skills. My friends were like, "Let's go to the dog park." I'm like, "That sounds great." And she's super awkward because of her neurological state, and she would trot up to a dog and be super high-tailed and like all of the body language that just tells you no thanks.
Right.
And a dog would growl at her and she would attack it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But now over time, she has really developed a lot better play skills and she is just my take everywhere dog. She loves a lot of different things. And my small dog, Potato, who, if you follow me on Instagram, I have a little Potato fan club. Potato is just a cat in a small cattle dog's body. I'm not gonna DNA test her. She has all the mannerisms of a feline. I have a friend who has a lot of like just a ton of cat experience that I worked with in the shelter, who is a director of a local shelter in my area now. And one day she saw Potato and went, Ashley, she's a cat. So I just go off that. She was really, really nervous of other dogs. So I trying to generalize both of them is as like, oh yeah, they'll both like going to the dog park now. That didn't work out. So she is all about tricks, and I love having a dog that I was able to boost her confidence and make her feel safe. And I feel like both of them have made me a better trainer because of how different they are. So Layla is 13 now and Potato is 6.
Wow, that's amazing. So where along that journey was Mannered Misfits born?
So Manor Misfits is only a year old. It's a toddler. I
Just a
was
baby.
It's a baby. It's 12 months old on, I mean, I don't know, whatever date the government decided I was a
Well,
business. I
congratulations. It's a big
Thank
step.
you. Yeah, but this is around the end of 2023. So at the beginning of January in 2024, it'll be a year old. I was employed at my local Humane Society for 6 years. And prior to that, hardcore fostering and volunteering for 2 years.
Yeah.
I was super into it because of all the things that Layla taught me. Layla was a great foster sibling. I spent more time at the shelter than I did my actual job. And then went, well, why do I just get a job here? Because I really want to become a dog trainer. And then
Right.
I was employed there for 6 years. I had every job under the sun. So I was
That's how it goes.
low level kennel attendant and worked my way up through the channels and ended in the behavior and training department where I coordinated the whole training program. I helped with intake diversion and unfortunately behavioral euthanasia counseling. I did classes, private clients, built classes for volunteers and staff,
The
so
list goes
much
on.
handling. And yeah, I'm like, what else did I do? And
Right.
I got to a point where I was just really, really exhausted. And it wasn't even the dog or animal aspect of everything, it was the people. So, over time, after I passed my CPDT-KA test, I decided, you know what, I think I'm done. And it was actually after Christmas of last year that I gave my notice and I left. So
Okay.
I
So
feel
really
like,
coming up on the year mark.
yeah. And then I was like, I guess I just go into business for myself. And thankfully, I had some clients that were like, yeah, no, we're going to, you know, come with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I had some people Google me. I had some folks, that I bumped into circumstantially kind of around town at like the grocery store, which I thought was really funny. That
Yeah.
happened more than once. And then I kind of just started piecing things together. My friend was like, do you have a logo? I'm like, no, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm like, I have a name. A name's good enough, right? And
It's hard
I
when you're
have,
first getting started to piece it
yeah.
all
And
together.
I have learned so much this year. It's been wild, like ways to, like just make sure I'm following my own boundaries for myself, not pushing myself, not overdoing it, making sure that I am, also always applicable to the case that I'm being consulted about. I have met so many amazing people, so many amazing dogs. It's been an awesome year, and I can't wait to keep doing it because I think my bar was very low when I started. My bar was, can I survive on being self-employed for 1 year? And I did.
And you
So
did. And
I'm
that's
like,
not
all right,
easy.
bar
That's not
slightly
easy.
raised.
To
No, it's
be a small
not.
business owner, it's, I don't know the exact statistics, but the
Hmm.
success rate is not super high. So
No,
again, congratulations on the year
thank you.
mark. It is a big deal. So, Ashley, it is story time. I have my imaginary popcorn right here, and I'm
Perfect.
excited to be doing the listening instead of the talking on this one.
Sweet.
So, story time.
So I wanted to kind of talk about, I think it's what you're doing is really cool because you're providing resources and troubleshooting for dog trainers just like me who are sometimes looking for more creative ways to help their clients and help the dogs that they're working with.
Yeah.
I drill into just about every, new green, or I have interest in becoming a dog trainer that volunteering or fostering dogs through a shelter or rescue will give you so much behavioral knowledge that I feel like most textbooks don't really like. It's one thing to be in it, it's another thing to be sitting and reading about it and like taking a quiz on it. I felt like the shelter opened my eyes to so many new ways to help dogs and so many behaviors I had never seen before, and I may have never seen before had I not been there.
Yeah.
I The most common age that a dog is surrendered at the shelter is 6 months to 2 years, so
Hmm.
adolescence. And I, excuse me, I always felt like those were the dogs that I was getting in, like, inquiries to work with. And I dealt with just about everything behaviorally. My first case that I shadowed with my mentor at the time was inner household dog aggression, where the people had double baby gates stacked on one side of the other and then anchored into the walls. And that was my
Wow.
first case that I shadowed. And I went, holy F, like that's a lot. But, it kind of gave me more of a broader perspective than just, we have to teach puppies how to sit. I started
You got thrown into
working,
the deep end.
I, yeah, well, I mean, at the shelter you do, it's like, hey, can you do this too? By the way, can you just have another expertise that you do? And you will
Yeah.
get so much experience. But what I really loved is I learned how to keep myself safe
Hmm.
before I potentially got into that situation with the client's dog.
Yep.
And that has only thankfully happened to me about once or twice this year, working with clients' dogs. Just, sometimes things happen, but able to mediate the situation very, very, quickly. And
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to do that had it not been for my career there. And there are so many ways that I'm desensitized to things. Like sometimes I think just now I'm now getting my startle response for when dogs bark back again.
Oh,
Because every
yeah.
morning it's like I started my day just walking through the barking kennels, like, yeah, another day. Like I just completely mute to it. And sometimes when my clients' dogs are barking and I'm still trying to talk, I feel like they get more frustrated than I am. I'm like, whatever, it's why I'm here. But I feel like at the end of the day, working with dogs who have so many different types of genetics and temperaments is what I really, really, really loved. I met dogs who, lived outside and were farm dogs. I met dogs from
Yeah.
hoarding and cruelty cases. I met
Hmm.
dogs who, on the very low percentage end, were just unfortunately like idiopathic aggressive, like just completely aggressive genetically. I also got a really great idea on cat behavior and body language and just so many different things. So, one of my biggest things that I learned there was just how important it is to meet basic needs for
Mm-hmm.
dogs and
Yeah.
look at their overall stress levels. And because at the end of the day, none of those dogs are having their needs met. And working with them in that context, it's not even really about like, sits and downs and stuff. And sometimes we would get dogs who were like, oh, yeah, I love food. I've had basic training. What do you want to see? I have all these, basic behaviors like a sit or a shake or whatever. And I would also meet dogs who had those skills, but they were so frustrated to the point where I could prioritize exercise for the morning and I could bring them into my office and they would not rest at all.
Yeah.
And they were, and I'm, kind of like, okay, like I have a clerical part of my job. I got to sit down. Here's your Kong. Here's your nice comfy bed. I'm going to put on some music and we're just going to chill. And they just could not do it. They were like jumping in my lap. I had one dog who jumped on my desk and like picked up like my container of pens and just hucked it across my
Oh my
office.
gosh.
You don't know how to just like shake it off. And like we've been
No.
out walking and sniffing and playing and doing whatever for like an hour.
Mm,
And it really, really showed me how much conditioning relaxation is so important for dogs
mm.
that just don't know how to relax. So, a couple of things that I've done in the last year with my business is one, I took the original relaxation protocol done by Dr. Karen Overall in 1997. And yeah, and I made some edits to
That's
it.
like older than a lot of trainers out there.
I know. And when I was reading through it, I was like, oh my goodness, like, why have I never taken the time to look at this? Because I would get a lot of dogs that were like, they would sit down if they knew I had food. But like, when you look at a dog and you're like, you're going to pop up in like 0.01 seconds, that was
Yeah.
kind of just daily. So I incorporated one with, higher rates of reinforcement, followed
Mm-hmm.
by, hey, these are all the needs that need to be met before you even do this. Like, this is not something to just try and get your puppy to chill out because you don't
Right.
have time to do any exercise. I really felt like asking for behavior a lot, depending on the dog, was almost kind of moot because over time, dogs will kind of sit and settle into positions when they're comfortable. And I view that as a really nice skill. I think that sometimes repeating myself to sit back down to a dog is more frustrating to them because it's like they sit and then they pop up and then they sit and then they pop up. And it's like, okay, how can I make this easy for you where this isn't so frustrating? So that was one of the things that I've kind of redone. And I think I have very few dogs where I have to be like, okay, well, let's just ask for a basic sit and then we'll just reinforce highly in that position. Another thing that I have done is I actually stopped teaching conditioning leash pressure. And one of the big reasons I did that was, if you've been following me on Instagram for a while, you know that almost 2 years ago I broke my knee. Couldn't walk for like 6 weeks. It was like the best day ever when I could drive my car somewhere. I
Yeah.
had to relearn how to walk my dogs. And thankfully, I had friends who were doing that for me. And that was really, really awesome of them. So, Potato, when I started walking her again on a 6 foot leash, she was pulling because my friends were, letting her pull. And I'm like, oh my God. And also, like, I can't walk that fast. Like, I'm trying to like rehabilitate myself.
Right.
So I started being like, okay, I'm going to go back to basics. I'm going to teach conditioning to leash pressure. And I looked at her and she was so like upset. Like she was so miserable. She would just shut down. Like she's still taking food, but like she'll eat anything.
Right.
So she's one of those dogs who is like, I'm upset, but I'm still going to eat this kibble. And that's just how she is. And I went, okay, what are like more errorless ways that I can teach this for a lot of dogs? Because I've had to step away from that when I'm working on like reactivity and really severe aggression, because building really solid verbal cues and good handler techniques has depleted the amount of reactions I've had or redirections from dogs. And I'm like, why do I need to have this as a skill? Because we can condition leash pressure to be like, oh, yeah, there's going to be steak at the end of this if you know, handle yourself right. But what if you are stressed out by this dog or this person or like prey? And I feel like adding extra tension to that just became less worth it. So things that I've done are I recommend longer leashes, which if you know,
Yep.
to just about all of my clients. I
Yep.
think maybe I have two that don't have longer leashes just because they don't need one. Layla is so old. She's on a 6 foot leash, but that's fine. And I feel like it's really beneficial to have what is 6 feet go from, six, like adding 2 to 4 extra feet is so like it makes such a world of difference.
Yeah.
And like dogs are going to walk a lot faster than we are. And I have felt like strengthening verbal cues, teaching my clients to rebalance their leash pressure because, it's such an instantaneous, like knee jerk thing. I mean, like having an aggressive dog, it's like, oh God, you're going to mess up. I can't let you do that. Get away.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I definitely felt like my own leash pressure sometimes caused Layla to have reactions when she was meeting dogs, when she was reactive to kids too, and she would lunge at kids. And I would add leash pressure because I'm like, be nice, please be nice. And I'm like, okay. So all of those things started to really, really, really make sense. So those are my biggest lessons are the things that we learn as we're training, just like learning how to train dogs basically. And our timing and our mechanics, those can be modified based on what you're seeing. And if there's inspiration that you find that is beneficial to you, try it out with your own dog or a dog you know really well and see how that skill works. I started taking the chase game from Simone Mueller's predation substitution training
Yeah.
and
Yep.
using it for leash walking.
Yeah.
And
Makes leash
like the
walking a lot
dog,
of fun. A lot of fun for
yeah,
your
the
dog.
dogs love it because I'm like, hey, if you want to pull, you can pull that way to go get that piece of food. I think there
Yep.
was another reel I saw where the person had a super long leash and they were tossing the food behind and then clicking every time the dog got back to position. And I'm like, this is awesome. So I felt like I saw happier dogs who were, you know, more engaged and, offering that behavior versus kind of being reminded that they had to be there.
Yeah.
And the dogs looked more relaxed, their body language, like they just looked like a dog that was okay with, learning a new skill versus a dog, in a training class where they're so frustrated and they're just like, my brain's not working, or they're really stressed by the environment. So
Right.
those were things that I was so grateful for my time in the shelter. Like, one, the relaxation protocol I redid because of my crazy frustrated dogs that I had to work with. And I'm like, well, you need to be out of your kennel because you're not sleeping enough. I have to get things done. I'm just going to sit here and like drop hot dogs for you until
Yeah.
you fall asleep, which would
Yep.
happen.
Yeah. It sounds like your time working in the shelter system was really tremendous in sort of allowing you now to go back and kind of question things that you
Hmm.
were taught in an original way and be able to
Yep.
give it a different spin for different dogs, for different situations. And
Hmm.
something that I found really interesting, and I think that if anybody listening works in the shelter system, hopefully they also can see as a takeaway is we can't always change environment. Environment's huge. Environment's a huge
Hmm.
factor of behavior. But what if? What about the times when we can't change environment? And it can be difficult, I think, to get to the point where you've got the right formula to be able to use a conditioned relaxation protocol. And it would take someone like you who's there consistently and is sure that those dogs' needs are being met appropriately. But I think that that's brilliant. I think it's hard, but I think it's brilliant. And when you can't change environment, it can teach a skill that can be life-changing.
Absolutely, and I feel like even in the dog's environment too, I can't expect people to pack up and move. Like,
Right.
that is so awful for me to even be like, "Well, have you ever considered, like, renting another place to live?"
So, Ashley, is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know about you or what you do or what's going on with your business or in your world?
So, as I kind of say, that's a really great question. As I kind of, segue into next year, this year I think I told myself a lot of things that I would get done, like, "I'm gonna have all these webinars, I'm gonna make so much content," and that did not happen. So next year, I am going to be prioritizing a little bit more education. I got a recall course done this year, and that felt really good to have that because I think that ended up being one of my biggest inquiries, was having a better recall. And I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, everybody, how can we break this down for you? And, just make recall look a little, excuse me, different than what you might have thought it was.
Mhm.
One thing, I still have quite a lot of shelter content I'm able to use. So I really want to do like stuff you can learn from shelter dogs.
Yeah.
I think I've been talking about this webinar and I've had it half done forever. So I'm really hoping to get that done and release that next year. And also, as far as next year goes, I am opening up my books for new clients. I do offer virtual sessions as well.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Ashley. It was so great to talk through your shelter experience and all of the ways that that impacts your training and probably the way that you look at the world and the industry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can find Ashley on Instagram at manneredmisfits_LLC, and their website will be listed in the show notes. Thanks for joining us in the world of Dog Training Bites, where every challenge brings a lesson worth sinking our teeth into. See you next time. Dog Training Bites was created, produced, and edited by Mattison Simpson. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dog Training Bites, that's BYTES, and at Freed by Training. For information on today's guest and resources for help with your dog or dog training education, visit www.dogtrainingbites.stream. Looking for more? Listen to my other show, Unpacked, a clinical dog training podcast co-hosted by Sailor Jerry the dog trainer and produced by Straight Up Dog Talk LLC.